Hi everyone, it's Joe here from Lawn Solutions Australia and welcome to this episode of Turf Talk, where today I'm joined by someone who's probably a little bit different in some ways to guests that we've had on before, as he's a landscaper by trade, but he's probably one of the most turf-obsessed people I've ever met, right down to the point where he's got turf tattoo, which not many people actually have. But I'm joined today by the owner and founder of Venus Landscapes, Brad Chandler. Brad, welcome.
Thanks for the intro, Joe. Appreciate it, mate.
So, a turf nut. Now, I think that's probably the understatement of the century for those that actually know you. So before we get into your life and your story and about your business, where did the obsession with turf come from, do you think?
When I was an apprentice, I found an old turf cutter in one of the sheds and had a bit of a play around out the back and rolled some turf up and realised I could patch up some areas, and I thought this was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And turf was pretty new back in the 80s to me.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could buy rolls of turf. Seed was what we were doing back then, I suppose. But we were mucking around with that, and then I just took it from there, and I just love it. I'm obsessed with it, mate. Yeah.
So turf obsessed was the right term. Now, before we get into the business side of things, talk me through the decision to get is it a roller grass tattooed on your arm? Is that what it is?
I've got some blades of turf, which I think look pretty realistic.
That looks good.
I don't think it's Sawalta Buffalo, but it's pretty good. I really love a business. I love owning a business, and turf, it was the big passion around the business. It's always been like that. So that meant a lot to me. Mm-hmm. And everybody who knows me know that I love my business. I love turf. And that was sort of where it took on from there.
So let's talk a little bit about the business. So you are a landscaper by trade.
Correct.
But it has a very heavy skew towards turf at the moment, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Pretty much my business is pushed, and the website and everything's pushed towards turf itself, laying turf. I love landscaping, don't get me wrong. I've been a landscaper for a long time, but the passion for the turf side of it just grew and pretty much took over with everything. So, and everybody who knows me knows I love turf, so tend to get me to do their turf as well, whether they're landscapers or not.
Yeah.
And that just took over, and that's the most enjoyment out of the work I do.
So, just the basics of what's the business named and where are you located, and kind of what sort of areas do you work or do you specialise in?
Yeah, so Venus Landscaping, we're obviously based in Melbourne, in the eastern suburbs, Lilydale.
Yeah.
And most of my work runs around all those eastern suburbs. I mean, I'll lay turf anywhere. It doesn't really matter, but whoever wants me to do it. But most of the eastern suburbs, and obviously I work directly with Lilydale Instant Lawn through Gary Lusk. And I've known Gary and Steve a long time, and Denise, and just have a really good relationship with them.
Yeah.
And pretty much they'll work my way and referrals, and then I'll take over from there and do that.
So how did that relationship with Lilydale start originally?
Well, I just met Gary because I went up to the turf farm when I was quite young. I'm not sure how old I was, but I would have been around the apprentice days in maybe the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
And met Gary and just realised how good a bloke he was, and saw how turf was rolled out and grown and cut and things like that. And then Gary I don't even think I ever opened up an account with him. I think he just did it. Yeah. And all of a sudden I was just buying turf off him back in the day when we were laying a lot of tall fescue, was pretty big back then before the drought hit. And just took it from there, and I pretty much are in contact with Lilydale nearly every day now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So just on the point of Lilydale, now what has changed the most about that business since you first walked in the door in the late 80s until now? It'd be a different shop altogether, wouldn't it?
Oh, enormous. I think back in the day, I can only remember Gary and his brother and his dad, and just a little, I think it was a flatbed truck, and they used to put a tarp over the turf and hand cut a lot of turf back in those times, and then it's just grown dramatically, which is really great. And I think the Sawalta Buffalo coming into Victoria really, what I noticed, really took over and set the market up, especially when the drought hit. That was the big thing. Yeah, that's when we were all struggling as landscapers, as much as the turf industry obviously was really struggling with the drought. I think Sawalta Buffalo really changed the market
So from a turf cultivar perspective, you just briefly touched on it then. So what's your journey been like cultivar-wise? So it started with fescues and it was the Millennium Drought that
Correct.
really caused the change?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, we were in water restrictions and couldn't lay turf. We were laying turf, but it was very difficult with the exemptions they were offering at the time. And as you know, with tall fescue, it needs a lot of water.
Yeah.
So then you're sort of obviously trying to go for the warm season type of grasses, and then once buffalo came into the market, that obviously really changed.
So you went from laying almost exclusively tall fescue grasses, and then once the wilder got introduced, was that the bulk?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look, we sort of transitioned, I suppose, in the early days, but I mean, once we knew what this grass was like, buffalo, it really just, that was it, pretty much solely. You had to sell people a little bit. Tall fescue is that nice, fine-looking, deep green.
It's a good-looking grass.
It's a good-looking grass, yeah. But when you know you don't water it on 140-degree day and it doesn't come back and doesn't recover, you can really promote the buffalo really quickly in its attributes with that. And then obviously all the other grasses come in and complement at the same time. But buffalo really helped my business a lot. It really, I mean, I was laying buffalo every second day of the week. So it really took over for me, which was fantastic.
And the installation of turf obviously is, well, just has some, it's the main thing you do now.
Absolutely.
So hard landscaping, as we call it's kind of taken a bit of a back seat and it's more about the turf.
Yeah, well, that's what I've tried to do. That's how I've pushed the business, because that's what I enjoy the most. Yeah, absolutely.
And what kind of jobs? So we've spoke before about some of the high-end sports work you do and that sort of stuff. So what kind of jobs have you been able to do along the journey? It's not just residential backyards, is it? You've been able to do some other cool stuff? Yeah,
so we've done a lot of turf wickets, football grounds, soccer grounds, all those sort of types of works along the way. A lot of high-end residential work too, where we've really had to be quite specific with the client.
What do you use? Because historically they would have been fescue clients. They like the fine leaf, high-end sort of look. What do you go with now? Is it still a buffalo lawn most of the time, is it for that?
Definitely the Tiff Tough has taken over that side of things.
I can see you've laid a bit of Tiff Tough as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, I'm actually starting to enjoy laying that now more than I am the buffalo.
Yeah, right.
I mean, people are specific in what they want, but you can soon sell a grass based on its attributes anyway. So either somebody really likes a fine grass or they're happy with the buffalo, but it's hard to talk people in who are adamant of what style of grass they actually want.
Sure.
But as long as you can sell the pros and cons to the grasses, that's what really makes it as well. But the Tip Tup's really taken over because all these sites coming on like Lawn Addicts and beer cans on your grass and things like that. I mean, they're really taken over the residential type of man who now loves turf.
Like, you see that even in what you're doing?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, okay. 100%. A lot of people are on these sites now.
Yeah.
Actually, and obviously Lawn Solutions site at the same time. But a lot of people are on these sites now and really starting to become passionate about turf, which I'm noticing a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm not the only crazy turf guy.
You'd make a lot of new friends in this new age.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, 100% I do, 100%. But yeah, Tiff Tough, definitely the finer grass, and a lot of guys like golf and things like that. So that's really started to take off as well. Yeah. I've talked to a lot of people into buying cylinder mowers and really starting to top dress and have fertilised programs.
So do you do the maintenance sort of stuff yourself, or
we do? Yeah, certainly do. Yeah. So I offer that as well. So we can come in and do a program on there. We can also, obviously, being a landscape, we put in automatic irrigation systems involved.
Yeah. Okay.
And we've done a lot of Husqvarna mowers adaptations on that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
let's talk robotic mowers for a sec. So what have you seen is the main benefit for the Husky mowers or robotic lawn mowers in general?
Definitely the benefit is what I see is the regular mowing of the grass. And that's the biggest problem, I think, in trying to train somebody that if we do a fertiliser and maintenance program on a lawn, we don't come in to mow the lawn as well. Yeah. So that's something you've got to train somebody to actually do regular as well. Yeah. So, I mean, with the Husky mowers, it's constantly cut, and especially with the Tiff Tough, it just makes it so much easier. Yeah. So a real asset for that point of view. I personally love mowing my own lawn, but I think that's for the people that don't have the time anymore, and they don't have the time,
Husky auto mowers are the perfect answer for
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's cool. You offer that as a bit of a package set.
And I think, I think what people do now too is if you're offering a Bluetooth or irrigation, then obviously they've got Bluetooth on their Husky mower. It's quite a little incentive for them to make it easy for themselves.
The line that looks after itself.
That's right. Yeah.
So you can get irrigation to the point where you can tap a button and it turns on whenever you want.
Yep,
You can get your mower to a point where you tap a button and it turns on whenever you want.
Yep.
And you offer fertiliser maintenance programs too. But one thing I've noticed, and I don't know if you've seen it or you agree, is with a Tiff Tuff doesn't like a lot of nutrient or fertiliser as it is. And with a Husky mower or a robotic mower constantly putting clip back in, you find they kind of look after themselves in that regard?
Yeah, look, they do. And they don't really, from what we've seen, they don't really tend to get thatchy.
Yeah.
We've noticed as well. I think it's cutting it so fine and doing it so regularly that you're not noticing that much problem. So therefore, you probably don't have to fertilise as often, which you shouldn't have to anyway. I think offering like an Oxifert sort of program.
These new products, they are making having a good lawn easy.
Correct.
They're taking the real thought out of it. So you've hit the nail on the head there. Robotic mower, obviously, it's a bit of a luxury, but it's a great thing if people have just space and have the budget for it. But products like Oxifert, Aceleprint, they make things so easy for people now. They can chuck one product down and be totally
for the average residential turf guy, they're becoming professionals in their own game.
Yeah, they are.
Which is true.
Yeah,
and I've made a lot of mates of mine quite obsessed that they've decided to buy cylinder mowers and things like that, and they're all coming down in price, and there's all electric ones of those, and they like it. They like to get their line straight, and they like to do those sort of things too, and they're becoming nuts as well. And these are just tradie guys that just love their lawn because it's amazing there, and there's so much information out there on social media about lawns and how to learn and do things. Yeah, so it's really good.
It's cool to see.
It is
so good to see, and people that used to just mow and have them looking okay, and now having them look 9 and 10 out of 10. But it's doing wonderful things for the value of their houses, their curb appeal, and that sort of thing. But it's good to see you're on board with that because people don't understand it until they really try it and see it for themselves.
That's right.
I'm glad you've sorted it.
That's right, and you can really. It's quite funny because I know my wife always talks to me, says when you're at a party, you could always talk to people about turf and people are interested about it. And because I think if you're really passionate about something, you can talk about it to anybody. And people are actually really interested in it because it's really become a big thing now.
Absolutely. And talking of passion, obviously we spoke before about people can hear it in your voice, the passion you have about turf. Now, I did hear a rumour that you're the official turf supplier or installer for the Western Bulldogs. So is there any truth to that rumour?
I don't think it's official, but I do love the Western Bulldogs, and I have laid a couple of lawns at their houses and trying to work on the rest of them. So we're working on that, mate. But they do know I exist. So no official title yet, but we're working on that.
We'll work on that. Yeah. If anyone from the Western Bulldogs Football Club is listening, we need an official title for Brad Chandler. I'm thinking, turf ambassador for the Doggies Football Club. But that'd be cool getting to know a few of the players. If you're a fan, obviously you're a Mad Dog Bulldogs fan. We spoke about this before, but it'd be cool getting in touch with a few of the players. And
it is, and they always sign a jumper for me and hand it out. Yeah,
Tiff Tough customers, are we? Or
we've put a couple of Sir Walter lawns in, but one of the guys, I'm putting a springtime. We're waiting until spring. We're going to put his first Tiff Tough in.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so they're all obviously they get a lot of time off. During training, so they play a lot of golf, so they love turf in that effect. So I think it's going to work. Once I start laying a bit of Tiff Tough, I think it'll go around pretty quick.
Yeah. And just moving away from obviously turf types and the turf industry and your place in it, moving back to sort of you and your business. So we've already gone over the sort of the outline of your company and what they do, but how did it all start for you from a landscaping perspective? Was this always something you were going to do, or you didn't like school so much, so you had to do something else? Or talk us through your journey from sort of start to finish in landscaping.
Yeah, so I think I always wanted to work outdoors. I was always an outdoor early riser kid anyway, so I was always going to do something outdoors and didn't want to go to uni and things like that. So definitely the landscape trade wasn't as glorified probably as it is now as much. Everyone sort of out there wants to be a landscaper because it sounds like it's fantastic. It's bloody hard work, but I think in the 80s and the late 80s, I think I applied at the time for like 60. I sent out 60 resumes to companies, and I ended up with 2 apprenticeships out of it.
Yeah, right.
And then I picked one and did a landscape apprenticeship, and then sort of ran my own stuff on the side, and then finally went out my own and did my own thing. I think though, I was really passionate about landscaping too. I got Apprentice of the Year in the early days when I was young, and quite interested in what I was involved in. I've always been that sort of person anyway.
Yeah.
But then, the turf just took over from there. And I think, in theory, if I had known more about turf in the early days, I probably would have moved into that field a lot earlier.
You reckon you would have gone sooner?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. But by the time it was just too, I started out my own business and then just sort of got passionate about turf, and then it took over from that side of things. And the business means a lot to run my own business. But if I had the opportunity to maybe be a curator or do something in turf management in the early days, but I didn't even know what existed back then.
Yeah.
You just sort of, I wanted to work outdoors, and I got a job that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
So...
And now you've got a sticker on the side of your truck that says Papa Turf and a picture
That's
of turf.
probably
So everything's cool to come up.
It's probably because I'm short and going grey and I love turf. So Papa Smurf, they used to all call me at work until I decided to make it Papa Turf. I made something. That could be another tattoo down the track, mate.
Yeah, we'll see how we go with that one. So we've been fortunate enough. I know I don't deal a lot, obviously, day-to-day turf sales, so I don't talk a lot with a lot of landscapers, but we've been fortunate enough to form a bit of a relationship over the last decade or so. And this has stemmed from you coming on some tours and doing some projects that Lawn Solutions have been involved with. So we'll go through a few of them now, but let's start with our US turf tour that we went on. I think it was 2013 or 14. It was a while ago now. So what inspired, obviously you're a turf obsessed, but what inspired a landscaper from Melbourne to want to come on a global turf tour to the US, where this was, obviously a lot of people know or have listened on this podcast talking about turf in the US and how it's transformed the Australian market here, but this was pretty unknown at this time. So what sort of ticked you to want to go on a tour like that?
I think being not directly in the turf industry, just for more knowledge, I think I really needed to just get around people around the turf industry. So getting an opportunity to actually go to America, which I hadn't even been overseas before anyway, to start with, and go to America and talk to Americans about their, different conditions and types of turf and things like that, was just out of control. Yeah. Amazing for me, which sort of hooked me in that, and just being able to go on conferences and talk and network to people and just learn. It was a lot about, I was passionate about it all the time, but just to network with people that love turf, I think it just really became a real passion for that and understand more.
And when you got there, obviously having decades of experience in the Australian turf industry, was there anything that stood out to you about the American turf industry where you kind of went, oh my God,
they're just big, big and out of control. I think going to Blade Runner really opened my eyes onto how much money they put into finding turf varieties and testing with those 2 metre by 2 metre plots. He had thousands of them.
It was nuts.
And then they may pick one or two over 10 years or something like that.
It's a serious business for them, and it's massive. And away from America, we've also built a bit of a relationship together through the Melbourne International Flower and Garden Show. Now, you've built, 5?
Yeah, the first one.
First gardens now?
Yeah, probably around 5, yeah.
Now, what's that like for you? Because it's a different space to what you're kind of used to working. You can work to your own timelines and your own budgets and that sort of stuff. What's it like saying, hey, this is someone else's design, build this in this amount of time?
Yeah, different. Yeah. It's, obviously we're not building show gardens, so the pressure's not there like that. But everyone's looking, so you got to make sure everything's done right. And there's a little bit of pressure on time, and it's busy and it's a fast pace, but love it. I love being able to build something that's for turf people, which was fantastic, and involving turf and trying to promote turf and people come and buy turf and things like that. So I really enjoy it.
So you've done a couple of different ones for us over the years. You built a massive wall was that out of tiles or something?
Yeah, I think it was 100 by 100 timber, and we painted every bit and then had them cut at different sizes and put the logo, the Sir Walter logo inside it. I think that was that would have been the first one we did with the grass with the Mona Lisa. Jason Hodges cut the Mona Lisa into the grass.
That's right.
We put a projector up at midnight and did that, and that was really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good.
And the most recent one you did had, I think, the first ever turf totem pole in history.
Yeah, they were interesting, yes. They survived. We might try a different style next time if we do them again, but We didn't have a lot of time to build that one, so maybe we could grow on a different medium next time. But it survived and it worked.
Yeah.
It chose Tiff Tough. I've even got. It's funny you mentioned about like with those totems, but I had a few spare rolls of Tiff Tough about 4 weeks ago that I threw in my bin at home. I've got a skip at home, which I hate throwing turf away, but it's been there a month. I haven't watered it, and it's growing in my bin.
Is that right?
It's got roots and it's growing.
It's hanging on.
It's quite amazing.
It's hanging on.
Yeah.
So out of all these journeys that you've been on turf-wise, you do still have one thing to fulfil that you spoke to me about before, and I know it's a bit of a goal of yours. You do want to make it one day into the Loving Your Lawn book.
It's the crazy turf man's passion, and I know when I told you, you sort of laughed and thought it was quite funny, but those books, I know back to front every edition, and I've got every edition at home, and I'm really passionate about the turf side of it, and they're really good books with really good knowledge on Australian grass, and that's what's important. Most of the books are European.
Yep.
That are out there, and this is really specific to Australian lawns, and that's what's most important. And it's a very easy read and easy to work out what you have to do to fix things and pests. And
for those that don't know what we're talking about the Lawn Solutions Loving Your Lawn book, but it's been out for 15 years.
Yeah, there's a few editions.
And you're telling me TAFE use it in Victoria?
Yeah, the TAFE, when they come out and check their apprentices for their modules, use the TAFE book. Yeah. Use that actual book for their turf module. Yeah, with questions in it directly out.
And how many are on your coffee table at home?
They're on every coffee table.
Next chance we get, we'll get some photos if you're doing some landscape.
That'd be great. I might need a little bit of photo shopping, but that's okay.
We'll be right. Front cover. So what's going to be the future for you? You've mentioned to me before that you're starting to wind things back a little bit now.
When I say wind things back, probably more the physical side of things.
Yeah.
But I think I'll finish my whole career in the turf industry. I think that's how it'll be.
Yeah.
Yeah, once I eventually retire.
You eventually retire. You don't strike me as the guy that's going to retire.
No, I probably won't, and everyone says that to me as well. But I'm just really happy laying turf and prepping turf and being involved in the turf industry as much as I can, and that makes me happy. That'll make me work longer.
And I ask a lot of our guests this, but obviously turf's a big part of your life, as we sort of learned over the last sort of 25 minutes. But what keeps you busy outside of work, outside of landscaping, outside of laying and installing lawns? What's Brad get up to?
I love watching the AFL footy, mate. Yeah, AFL footy, and I love looking at the grass there too. So.
It all comes back. So you're a mad Doggies fan.
Yep.
Did you get there in the grand? Was it 2016 they won?
2016, yeah. My dad went in 1954.
Yeah.
He lived across the road from the ground.
Okay.
And my mum's pop owned pubs in Footscray.
Right.
And when they won the grand final in 54, they came back to her house and held the cup up. So I've actually seen both cups, and I got to take Dad and my son to the footy in 16 as well.
Very cool.
So I'm happy. I'm not greedy. I'm happy to see one grand final. So we've won one.
You won one. You get another one soon, you reckon? How the Doggies going at the moment?
We'll see.
We'll see.
Might be a little while.
We'll see. But any chance you get, have a look through at the old Lawn Solutions Mifkas Gardens, and chances are one of them's been built by Brad Chandler, or you can check out his website, Venus Landscaping, and you'll see some of the work he does there. But if you've had a lawn that's been laid in Victoria in the last 25 years, chances are Brad might have touched a bit of grass that's gone into your backyard. But we appreciate you coming on, sharing your story, and we love the passion that you have for your industry. Again, I don't think there's many out there with grass tattoos on them, and I think you might be the only pup of turf sticker beneficiary. But
I'll be around for a while.
Yeah, but appreciate you sharing your story with us, and I'm sure everyone will like listening to it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.